Tonight, constitutional redress application dismissed. Niuean National takes up SPC top job. And police revamps internal affairs division. Very good evening. A police officer's constitutional redress application has been dismissed by the High Court. Melissa Teki was charged with abuse of office. He had attempted to have the charges quashed through the constitutional immunity provision. He claimed the 2013 Constitution's immunity provision applied to him as a police officer. But the Director of Public Prosecutions, Christopher Pride, said the application was fundamentally flawed since it should have been brought in the civil jurisdiction of the High Court. Pride adds that any dispute as to charges or evidence or interpretations of the law were matters that should properly be handled by the Magistrates' Court in the normal course of criminal proceedings. He said it was an abuse of process given there was an alternative remedy available in the Magistrates' Court. Justice Paul Madigan also ruled that the application was abusive and vexatious. And in news just to hand, at least 13 students have been taken to hospital after a container truck collided with a school bus. Fiji One News has been informed that this happened in the last hour. The accident is believed to have taken place along the Lomolomo stretch in Lautoka. Investigations are now underway. The Secretariat of the Pacific has named its new Director General. He is Dr. Colin Tukuitonga, who is currently SPC's Director of Public Health Division at the headquarters in Noumea. As Halitestat reports, the former University of the South Pacific, as well as Fiji School of Medicine graduate, is already looking forward to the challenge.
He is the man now at the helm of the Secretariat of the Pacific Community. The Niuean National is not new to the organization, but he is all too aware of the challenges that lies ahead of him in leading the regional body.
It's a lot easier to assume responsibility for an organization that is not doing so well, because theoretically the only way is up. But with SPC, of course, it's doing good things, it's got good systems, it's got good support, and it's providing valuable service to the countries. And the challenge for me is how on earth do I take it to the next level?
Dr. Tukuitonga attained his medical qualification from the Fiji School of Medicine, which was then under the University of the South Pacific. He will officially start as the Director General on January 23rd next year.
The SPC is a technical, scientific organization, and that's what we should be doing, focusing on providing the best information, the best evidence to the countries. There are institutions in the region that deal with the politics. We should stay out of that. That's not our business. Our business is to work with the countries, whatever the political situation is, to deliver what we know best. I think problems will arise when we try to be something else that we're not equipped to be.
During the two-week conference here, the officials and ministers have agreed to legally recognize the name of SPC as well as expand their boundaries in the region. Timor-Leste will become a member of the SPC.
We have been having discussions with Timor. They are interested to apply for membership, and so now from the organization's perspective, the last mile has been cleared. It now rests with Timor-Leste if they wish to formally apply, and they apply. There is now a provision within the Pacific community to entertain that request and invite them formally to become a member of the organization.
Today also marked the end of current Director General Dr. Jimmy Rogers' term. Dr. Rogers has been at the helm of the organization for the last 8 years. Halitestat, Fiji One News.
And you can also watch the full interview with our reporter Halitestat and the new SPC Director General on our website. Dr. Tukuitonga talks at length about his plans for the organization, sustainable development and climate change adaptation measures in the region. That's www.fijione.tv. The Suva High Court has today found an accounts clerk guilty of murdering his wife. Ronil Chand appeared before Justice Salesi Temo facing charges of pouring kerosene on his wife and setting her alight in 2011. Justice Temo told the court he agreed with the unanimous verdict of the assessors who found him guilty yesterday. The judges also rejected the defense's argument that the deceased had committed suicide. Justice Temo instead accepted the circumstantial evidence and the deceased's dying declaration that her husband had set her alight to be true. DPP lawyer Lisiate Fotofili told the court that the accused had committed a premeditated offence and had shown no remorse during the trial. The matter has been adjourned to tomorrow morning for sentencing. The Fiji Police Force has re-established its Internal Affairs Division. This is in light of an increase in complaints against police officers. Acting Commissioner of Police Ravi Narayan issued a directive last week to formalise its re-establishment.
Initially set up in 1991, the Internal Affairs Division underwent a couple of changes, mainly to its name, before it was disbanded 2 years ago in 2011. Its task was to investigate serious allegations against police officers. This morning, the unit was re-established.
While there are reports that are lodged directly at the police stations and community posts, it doesn't take into account the complaints that are received by our senior officers because we have made their telephone numbers easily available. As such, the members of the community have come directly to the senior officers and especially to the Commissioner of Police, raising their grievances.
Up until now, complaints were being dealt with by the respective divisional police commanders. There's hope now that complaints will be dealt with efficiently.
As such, with all the complaints coming to a central location, this unit will now ensure that each case or each report is dealt on a case-by-case basis and also done in an efficient manner, because understandably the divisional police commanders have other responsibilities as well. So therefore this unit will be solely tasked to look after all complaints.
Last week, the Acting Commissioner of Police issued a directive formalizing its re-establishment. The unit will be headed by Senior Superintendent Luke Navella.
Most of the complaints that we are receiving are against services that are related to investigations, how investigations are carried out, lack of feedback, the complaints that we continue to receive, and some against the conduct of our police officers. Those are some of the issues that we are trying to deal with, but once we get these reports collated, we'll also issue progress reports to the divisional police commander so that they will know which areas that they have to deal with in their various units and which certain areas that they have to address immediately.
Complaints against police officers continue to be one of the force's main concerns. Amelia Vunilamba, Fiji One News.
The Ministry of Education maintains that schools should not demand school fees from parents for the 2014 school year. But so far the ministry says it is only aware of one school making such demands.
The Ministry of Education is not impressed with schools continuing to demand 2014 fees. This comes despite allocations made in the 2014 national budget for primary and secondary schools.
I'm also appealing to all the school committees to be very sensible, to be mindful that government has made a decision and the money will be paid. So they should not take any deposit from any parent, and if they have done so, they should refund it to them.
As the 2013 school year draws to an end, the ministry maintains that grants for fees will be released in due course.
I know schools need the money. We all understand that. We will make the payments in early 2014 because the budget is for 2014. Then only we will have the money and we'll make that grants available to them in early January.
When asked what action, if any, will be taken against schools continuing to ask for payments of 2014 fees, Dr. Lal had this to say.
That is a very small thing to handle. I think we shouldn't worry about for one school out of 1,000 schools.
So far, the ministry is only aware of one school requesting next year's school fees payment up front. He adds that concerned parents should raise their concerns directly with him.
I only have heard complaint because more people complain to you people, not to me. So you will have that's why probably you will work out a way how you can solve them, because if people have complaints, they should come and see me. Yeah, no one is coming to see me, so I'm not aware. Only you people bring a lot of complaints to me.
A little more than $500 million was set aside for the education sector in 2014. Amelia Vunilamba, Fiji One News.
Meanwhile, despite various reminders by the Education Ministry, some schools are refusing to refund fees to those parents who paid in advance for next year. Our consumer watchdog has been receiving numerous complaints from parents over certain schools not abiding by the ministry's directive.
There are schools who are saying, well, we need this money because we need to prepare the school for next year. But why should only few parents pay in advance so that the schools can use that money to prepare whatever they need to do for the following year?
The government allocated more than $300 million to the Education Ministry as part of providing free education at all levels. Kumar says it's sad that schools are refusing to refund money to parents.
From the council's perspective, it's very clear that the parents basically exercise their responsibility by paying the fees in advance because they want to reduce the financial burden for 2014. As we all know, the festive season is coming. Now with the government's announcement that they will be paying for the school fees, there is no basis, no grounds whatsoever for schools not to refund that money.
In the news ahead, visiting surgeons touching local hearts. And civil service examines gender equality. Hello again. The annual Friends of Fiji Heart Foundation has started with major operations in the Western Division. Over the coming days, they will be operating out of the Lautoka Hospital, offering a new lease of life to those with heart ailments. Our West team caught up with the team of volunteer health professionals from New Zealand.
13-year-old Agnes Clare was diagnosed with rheumatic heart disease 2 years ago. The disease has ravaged her heart valve, leaving her weak and bedridden most of the time. Until 2 months ago, her parents have been preparing for a trip abroad to have open heart surgery that would heal her.
Coming only, I know that we have to prepare for travel. Only last 2-3 weeks back, they were after me. Even the nurses here in Lautoka Hospital, they come straight home. They knock on my door, they told me, there's a good news for you. I think that team are coming shortly. Agnes' name has been picked. You know, first of all, I'm happy.
Tukana says her job after getting the good news was convincing her daughter to take the opportunity of having an operation here at home rather than go abroad. She says her answered prayer for healing to her daughter was divine intervention in the form of professional health volunteers who committed to helping the desperate and the needy.
When she comes back, I said, hey, one nurse came. I think you have to have your operation here. No, I'm not going to have my operation here. No, the doctors mentioned to us that we have to go abroad. Yes, the team that's supposed to see you there, they are here in front of us. At least we should be grateful, we'll be happy.
For the organization that was initially set up in 2006 to assist people with heart ailments, the annual event is one that is anticipated by many who will give up their leisure time to be part of a worthy cause.
For 8 years, we would have easily done over 175 open heart surgery. We also incorporate with our mission a pacemaker that's pacemaker checks and install where it's necessary.
The group of 55 medical professionals also bring with them their own gear. Patel says their project would not have been possible without the support of the Fijian government.
Quite frankly, I can say this, that the little support, the staff support that we get, medical volunteer team are thrilled by the attitude of the local staff over here.
Open heart surgeries like the one conducted on Agnes Clare has been a lifeline for many in Fiji over the past 8 years. For the Friends of Fiji Heart Foundation, the hope is that this will snowball into something bigger, spearheaded by the locals and the private sector in Fiji to enhance the work the Ministry of Health is doing. For Fiji One News here in Lautoka Hospital, I'm Madhu Malitamana.
The interim trustees of the Fiji Cancer Society are working on the release of funds frozen from the Walk On, Walk Strong initiative. The trustees met with the committee members of the NGO yesterday. They have now asked WOWS to submit their 6 months work program.
As you know, the WOWS bank accounts are also frozen within the Fiji Cancer Society bank accounts. And so having heard their submissions, having had a very useful meeting with them, we are now considering releasing those particular bank accounts and allowing WOWS to carry on with their projects. But we await their work program as well as the details of their audited accounts from their accountant.
The progress of the internal audit of the Cancer Society is also well underway and is expected to be completed in the coming 3 months. The trustees are now focusing on a patient care system provided by the Society.
One of the concerns that we have discussed is whether the Cancer Society is adequately looking at specialized care and specialized areas of cancer. For instance, whether there should be a core group supported by the Cancer Society which looks at breast cancer specifically, and another core group looking specifically at other types of cancer.
The Pacific Adaptation to Climate Change Fiji has successfully identified some of our root crops that's resilient to saltwater intrusion. PAC Fiji has conducted trials at 2 different sites as they try and find crops resilient to climate change. They are now looking at the possibilities of expanding similar crop testing initiatives to other parts of the country prone to saltwater intrusion.
Saltwater intrusion is becoming an issue in terms of food security. Triggered by climate change, the Pacific Adaptation is trying to address the issue. Root crops such as cassava and dalo have been trialed at 2 sites in Tailevu and Deumba. Already, there are some positive results.
We have seen positive results from the dalo and also from the cassava that we have tested. And these varieties we intend to also put it on a large scale, and also to bring in some traditional varieties that were once being used by our locals, but they have been disappearing now.
PAC Fiji is now focusing on next year. The 2 existing pilot sites will be used as a model to implement similar projects in other soggy places. $400,000 has been allocated for similar projects next year.
Most of these wetlands were not being cultivated because of the high water level, and now it's drying up, so they need to have a systematic way of how they can fallow their land so that it will be suitable for these types of crops, not only for crops, also for vegetable farms, if they want to do vegetable farms.
However, while finding a solution to food security threats, the behavior of some farmers is also a concern.
Farmers, they tend to follow their own routine. But to change their routine is not easy. And hopefully when they see what's coming into the picture now on how to address this, especially in the wet soil, then they can take it on board, and so that they can have a good productive outcome of what they intend to plant in these areas.
Plans are also underway to develop a fully fledged nursery at the Coronavia Research Station that will be used as a seed bank. Haliteshtat, Fiji One News.
Permanent secretaries and senior officials of key government ministries today underwent a gender competent and leadership training. With women making up a large chunk of our sizable portion of public service, the aim was to train top executives on ways to implement and practice gender equity within the public service workforce.
In a workforce of 30,000 employees, women make up a sizable 51% of our public service. But at the senior level, they remain underrepresented.
It is only a difference when it comes to certain positions where we have found that women are less represented in the senior roles. But by and large, the proportion of women to males in the public service is quite comparable.
Fiji's Goodwill Ambassador for Women and Children, Nazat Shamim, says gender equality is about gender competence in the way public service conducts itself.
We're in 2013 now. It's been a long time since women have entered the workforce, and in 2013, when you don't have many women at senior levels in public service, that indicates to me an inherent gender inequality in recruitment and promotion processes.
The Public Service Commission admits it usually receives complaints on gender inequality, but very rarely.
We do random audit checks and do random audits in collaboration with those permanent secretaries, and come up with findings which get reported back to the ministries. So it's a work in progress type of attitude, and it all happens progressively.
Laws in place such as Public Service Act and Employment Relations Promulgation have helped protect against gender inequality. But there is still room for improvements.
I believe there are still the issues that we need to, and that is really one of the rationales why we're having the permanent secretaries in this meeting, so that they are actually made aware of what are the manifestations of gender inequality, and they can address it appropriately within their ministries.
The training was organized by the Ministry of Social Welfare. Halitesh Dutt, Fiji One News.
Attorney General and Minister for Communications Ayaz Said Qayyum is representing Fiji at back-to-back international telecommunications conferences in Bangkok this week. The first is the Connect Asia Pacific Conference, which started yesterday. After that, he also attends the ITU Telecom World Conference, which starts today. He is expected to outline the Bainimarama government's reforms of the ICT sector, which have won international acclaim for delivering services and infrastructure to the Fijian people. Said Qayyum said before his departure that this was a particularly exciting time for ICT development in Fiji. He said the recent budget announcement of free primary and secondary education, together with a loan scheme for tertiary education, means that more money than ever before will be pumped into the education sector, allowing schools and universities to invest more in ICT equipment and training. Our presence is being felt at the 19th United Nations Conference of the Parties Climate Change Talks in Poland. As chair of the crucial group of 77 and China, which makes up over 130 nations, we are helping elevate the climate change concerns of some of our smaller regional neighbours. G77 councillor and team leader Sai Naivoti says Fiji has tried its best to ensure that the G77 unity is maintained and protected. Naivoti says this is a big responsibility and we need to have an excellent team who have so far received commendations. The G77 also acts as a negotiating bloc at the Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Framework to Convention on Climate Change. Pacific News is up next. Stay with us. Government's volunteer scheme continues to expand across the region. Today, the Public Service Commission and Foreign Affairs signed an agreement with their counterparts from Timor-Leste. This will see the PSC providing much-needed skills in areas of relevant need in Timor-Leste. So far, government has sent some of our experienced retired teachers to Pacific states, such as the Marshall Islands. The visiting Timor-Leste government delegation says, given Fiji's past experience as peacekeepers in their country, the volunteer scheme should be a success.
Agreement Fiji will be able to send experienced workers to contribute to your country's economic and social development. This is a partnership program wherein the cost will be shared between the two countries.
Based on the experience of the past, when we have the Fijian peacekeepers in Timor-Leste, we are closer to the Fijian peacekeepers than the other ones. So I'm sure that the volunteers will have the same relationship with our people in Timor-Leste.
The Cook Islands delegation attending the 19th UN Conference of the Parties Global Conference in Poland are making their presence felt. Cook Islands Director of Climate Change, Anna Tira, says the meeting is very important for them, especially after hearing from some of their northern islands that they are already experiencing the impacts of climate change through coastal erosion resulting in land loss. She says if people ask why they're in Warsaw at this meeting, they can explain that they are there to seek a global agreement so that their people can continue living on their islands. Major mobile telecommunications players is planning to host a Christmas party this year like never before. With the launch of its Christmas song, Digicel says this year their focus is centered around the importance of families. Next week, the Digicel Christmas tree will be erected in Suva's Sukuna Park, with children from orphanages to also join the Digicel family for dinner. Elderly citizens residing at the All People's Home have also been invited to be part of the Christmas celebrations. Digicel says this is also about giving back to the community that have helped them.
There's no catch. If you come to the Christmas tree lighting, you'll see there's no catch. Like, it's absolutely free. It's just celebrating because Digicel in Fiji has a lot to be thankful for. And we are thankful to our customers for supporting us. It's been a fantastic year for us, and this is a perfect time to share the spirit with everybody.
And William is next with sport, and the FIU are thinking of lodging an official complaint to IRB.
That's right, Willie. The 5 yellow cards that were dished last weekend, the Flying Fijians, hard to swallow for FRU. More on that coming up later. Also ahead, Fiji Sevens to field team at the Youth Olympics. And Suva to commemorate fallen player at Pacific Cup. Welcome back. The Fiji Rugby Union are considering taking Welsh referee Leighton Hodges to task following his record dismissal of our players against Italy last weekend. Hodges dished out a record 5 yellow cards to the Flying Fijians on their way to a 37-31 test defeat to Italy. The South Pacific Islanders were briefly reduced to 11 men in 8 crazy first half minutes when 4 of their players were sent to the sin bin.
No rugby union is happy with 5 yellow cards. No rugby union in the world. I think, yes, definitely I've written to our referees, our top referees, to view the footage, give their opinions, and then from there we'll be in a better situation to reply to and then respond to IRB on the concerns raised.
During the incidents, Italy scored 2 tries, resulting in the win. FRU will review the footage before filing the official complaint to the IRB, but admits ill discipline is not acceptable from players playing at that level.
With 5 yellow cards, we still came close, which means we could have won that game. Having said that, we have to look at it objectively, and that's why we've sent the footage to our referees to have a look.
The Flying Fijians face Romania this weekend. The Flying Fijians has dropped back to 13th in the IRB World Rankings released today. Inoke Male coach side slipped 1 place after their 37-31 loss to Italy on Sunday. Tonga now sits in 12th place despite going down 38-18 to France, while Samoa remains in 8th place. The top 5 remains unchanged as New Zealand mark 4 years at the summit of the rankings, consolidating their top spot with a 30-22 win over England. The All Blacks have occupied the number 1 spot since 16 November 2009. The Fiji Sevens team gets into serious business from today. The 16 players named by coach Ben Ryan marched into camp at the Uprising Resort and have just finished their first training session. Amongst them is New Zealand-based Chona Tuitonga, who is the only overseas-based player in the side.
The focus will be basically lifting the training up to another level. We've got good players. We want to lift them up to be exceptional players to compete at this high level end. Knowing that we've got to lift the Fiji branding up again. So that's the focus that Ben Ryan has in place right now.
The players will have another 2 sessions of training tomorrow before the final 12-member squad is named for the Dubai and South African leg of the RB7 series.
The criteria is their attitude, how they respond to training that's been put, especially with high intensity, looking at the conditioning that they're going to be put through this three sessions of practice, and also looking at the way they've been playing. That counts as a factor as well before we name the team.
Team Fiji has grabbed the opportunity to field a team sport at next year's Youth Olympics in China. This after the favourites, the All Black Sevens rugby side pulled out, allowing Fiji to grab the spot with open arms.
New Zealand's loss is Fiji's gain at next year's Youth Olympic Games in Nanjing, China. This after the All Blacks men's sevens team pulled out from the games, giving next best options Fiji the opening.
The rugby team has been included after New Zealand had declined the invitation to participate, and that's most likely because they might field a team in another sport.
Fiji Rugby Union did not hesitate in grabbing the opportunity.
We thank Fasanov for it, but it's a build-up, it's a preparation for us, for youth, and for us to prepare what to expect when you're taking part in the Olympics. So there's 2 things, one for our players' exposure, one for the officials. We prepare for the Olympics, Fasanov is familiar with that environment.
Sevens inclusion in Youth Olympics has opened the door for Fiji to win its first ever medal at the Games.
That'll be a sport that we definitely have an excellent chance of coming away with the medal. So it's very exciting.
FIU not wasting time in announcing the coach who will guide the Fiji Sevens youth team next year.
People who will be looking after the under-18 youth team will be Ben Ryan, our national sevens coach. I think for us the approach is part of the development of the younger players who might, some of them if they perform well, might be eligible to be in 2016.
And to boost its chances of winning, International Olympic Committee has given $100,000 for team support grant to Fasanok, who will then pass on to FIU.
Every dollar that we can get the more.
FIU will soon start working on the logistics of selecting a team for the Youth Olympics. Irfan Khan, Fiji One News.
The absence of Test Centurions Dan Carter and Tony Woodcock is the least of the worries for coach Steve Hansen, as the perfect test year beckons for the All Blacks if they can keep their focus for just 1 more week. Hansen confirmed before making the short trip from London to Dublin that Carter and Woodcock would not play the final test of this long year against Ireland at the Aviva Stadium on Sunday.
The All Blacks celebrated this hard-earned win against England with a night off. And if anyone deserves a break now, it's Ben Smith.
Here's Ben Smith.
Between centre and wing, Smith has played almost every minute of every test and every Highlanders Super 15 game this year.
I think it probably just gives you a bit of confidence, you get to work on your game week in, week out.
He missed the last 9 minutes against Australia in Dunedin, 30 off at the end in Tokyo, and a blood binning with the Highlanders leaves a tiny 49-minute hole in a perfect attendance record. So time for a rest this week?
No.
The All Blacks will be fighting any suggestion that the hard work on this autumn tour has finished here in London. Any complacency during the week could be every bit as dangerous as the threat posed by Ireland at the weekend. Ireland has never beaten New Zealand in a test. One more victory would give the All Blacks the first clean sweep in a professional rugby season. That will be motivation aplenty.
To rip into it and to get stuck into it, we've got a great achievement at the end of this if we can get a win.
Messam has pulled up well after battling a deafening English crowd from before the whistle. A longer haka seemed to be his tactical play.
No, what actually happened, I lost breath and I was about to faint. So I was trying to drown the big fans and just had to regroup and regather myself before I fell over and embarrassed myself.
True story.
True story.
The whole squad, Dan Carter and Tony Woodcock included, now travels to Dublin to catch its breath and prepare for an historic end to the season.
Australia's Tevita Kurindrani has been cited over the dangerous tackle that earned him a red card during Saturday's win over Ireland. The centre could now be given a ban for his tip tackle on Peter O'Mahony during the 72nd minute of the match. Meanwhile, Australia have suspended 6 players for 1 match and warned 9 more for drinking in midweek before Sunday's win over Ireland. Wallabies coach Ewan McKenzie acted after a group of players made the decision to stay out late and consume inappropriate levels of alcohol. The Band 6 are Adam Ashley Cooper, Nick Cummins, Liam Gill, Tatafu Polata Now, Ben Robinson and Paddy Ryan. Veteran Petero Dibunideva is eyeing his swan-song match against Australia unless the Fiji Mbati pulls off a shock win in the semi-final clash this weekend. Dibunideva has stated early that he will be retiring from the sport after the Rugby League World Cup.
Petero Dibunideva is finally ready to hang up his boots for good, but not before one final and fitting challenge.
I knew I was going to be playing in the World Cup sort of part way through the season. I guess be the last time I throw the boots on and just enjoy everything.
Former Australia international is relishing the prospect of a big finish to his career when Fiji Mbati lines up against the Kangaroos in the Rugby League World Cup semi-final this weekend.
I think in 2008 it was a performance that was unexpected, how well the Fiji Mbati did, but I think very much so for this tournament we had an idea of where we wanted to be and we knew the football that we were capable of playing, and it was about living up to our own expectations.
The 37-year-old prop, who will bring the curtains down on his career, is expecting to bow out on a high and is hoping the Fijians can pull off a shock win at Old Trafford.
We're definitely heading in the right direction to showing the world, the rugby league world especially, what that Fiji is quite capable of holding their own.
His statements fully backed by teammates who consider him as the father of rugby league.
He's the most humble person off the field, and maybe that's everyone. I've never heard anyone have a bad word to say about him, and if we can take a leaf out of his book, we'll go a long way.
Since coming back from retirement in 2012, the most kept forward with 45 appearances for Australia is adamant his journey will end at the tournament in the UK and Ireland. Irfan Khan, Fiji One News.
Fiji Football Association is expected to kick off the new National League season by end of this month. The league competition was scheduled to start earlier this month but was postponed due to administrative reasons. Meanwhile, Fiji FA CEO Bob Kumar and competitions manager Amitesh Pal have been attending the OFC seminar which dealt with how to strengthen National League and other competitions. Participants from Oceania regions were part of the seminar which ended on the weekend.
It has been gaining up momentum over the years, and now that with the OFC Champions League being in the focus, there's a lot of competition back home, and it has become a great challenge for the participating clubs. So I want to definitely go back from here with some ideas as to how we can strengthen and make the league even more competitive, more strong, so that when our teams qualify for the FIFA playoff, they go as a strong team.
Suva football team will not take the Pacific Cup tournament in Auckland lightly. The side left for New Zealand today knowing the importance of winning the tournament, especially for one player who couldn't make the trip.
Suva football team departed for New Zealand this morning with a positive mindset of doing well in the Pacific Cup tournament.
So far we have been preparing well and looking forward for this Pacific Cup.
This will be the second time for the capital city side to compete in the tournament. This year, they have a special reason to win the tournament after losing their midfielder Lobnil Pratap, who passed away last week.
I think we'll dedicate this tournament on him because he was a player, and we also went to his funeral. This is what the boys have said, they want to dedicate this tournament.
But the going could be tough for the side. They've been drawn in a tough pool with champions Nandi, Sydney and Auckland Nandi. The side left with only 15 players, knowing the strength of the tournament in New Zealand.
If you look at the competition, it is quite competitive now. It's not what they used to have before. And if you're looking at both the pools, there are some very good teams with some good players. So competition will be really competitive.
Apart from Suva, Ba, Nandi and Lambasa are other local teams in the 5-day tournament which gets underway at Bill McKinley Park in Auckland tomorrow. Irfan Khan, Fiji One News.
And that's Sport, Billy.
Thanks, William. Stay with us for world news from our global news partner CNN after the break. Hello again. In world news tonight, much of the Typhoon Haiyan relief effort has been focused on Tacloban, ground zero for the storm's arrival in the Philippines. The CNN's Anna Corin reports.
Under dark, gloomy skies, another C-130 comes into land at the epicenter of the worst natural disaster to hit the Philippines. The Royal Australian Air Force dropping off another load of supplies and humanitarian workers in Tacloban, one of dozens of countries that has come to help. On the tarmac, piles of aid stack up as more aircraft fly in.
It's chaotic, but every day we're improving. Every day the logistical systems are getting more refined, and we're really seeing a lot of in and out at the warehouse. So things aren't sitting here. They're really going out to affected communities.
While in the terminal, thousands converge, desperate to jump on any flight to escape this living hell.
I just don't know what to do right now. All I can think about is my daughters, and I just have to save them first.
But not everyone is leaving. As we travel along the road from the airport, life continues amongst the debris and devastation. Lining up for their rations of water, rice and sardines, their resilience shines through.
I'm happy. So other country help us. We're very much thankful to the other country who are helping us. Thank you very, very much.
As you can see, there is virtually nothing left here in Tacloban City. The people who have decided to stay here are relying on the aid and donations of international organisations. Just look at this line. These people have been queuing for several hours for rice and sardines that will have to last their families for several days. As to how long these people will have to do this, nobody really knows.
Yeah.
We come across 36-year-old Gary Carnell, who shows us where he used to live.
There in my house, and my mom, and my neighbor, and my sister. Here in my sister house is done. Nothing left.
But his uncle, who never expected his family to survive, is far more optimistic.
We love Tacloban. I love Tacloban. I was born here in Tacloban, and I want to die in this place.
Back at the airport, another day draws to an end, but nothing stops on the tarmac. This is an operation of endurance and a commitment to the long road ahead.
Powerful tornadoes spawned by a huge storm system has killed at least 5 people while flattening thousands of homes in the U.S. Midwest. The storm system placed up to 53 million people across 10 U.S. states under threat.
Okay, this is as close as I ever want to get.
A massive, churning grey monster.
We're getting hit with some hail, some debris.
South of Chicago, it cut across the Illinois landscape, leaving neighbourhoods all but flattened.
We run to the basement, and it was gone within 3 or 4 minutes. And just, you can see what it's done here, just everything.
Dozens of tornadoes were reported across the Midwest.
We saw it coming through this way, like the angle towards our house.
Residents in the danger zone were 1 minute praying for their lives.
But deliver us from evil, amen.
The next, bewildered at the catastrophic damage.
Tornado took the house down.
Hundreds of homes were destroyed in the Illinois towns of Washington and Doria. Dozens of people were injured and several killed, while in parts of Indiana, tornadoes touched down as well. At Soldier Field in Chicago, 60,000 spectators at an NFL football match were forced to seek shelter underneath the stands.
The game will be temporarily suspended.
The ominous skies delaying the game for some 2 hours. Millions more Americans are being warned to prepare for nature's worst.
Isolated showers and thunderstorms were experienced, especially in the afternoon. A trough of low pressure lies over New Caledonia and is gradually moving eastwards. Meanwhile, an easterly wind flow prevails over most of the southwest Pacific countries. A look at the headlines again. Constitutional redress application dismissed. Niue National Dr. Colin Tukuitonga takes up SPC top job. And police revamps internal affairs division. That's Fiji One News. Thanks for joining us. Have a good evening.